crowdfunded films, and it may be the largest documentary crowdfunded films in history, and there are almost 4,000 people who've contributed to it, which means that all 4,000 people could potentially become representatives in their towns to help us network to all these independent theaters, which have become a very big part of the movie industry worldwide, where it's not at a big, chain distributor system where you would see a Tom Cruise film, but where, people have all these other types of films that come out. And, we could possibly organize something where it could come out on 100 or 200 or 300 and then eventually 500 cities that way.
Yeah, well, it's a great thing to talk about, actually, and I'd love to let some of the listeners know what we're working on and how we intend to roll the film out using a three-tiered strategy that is both big studio theatrical distribution models married with, VOD and delivering the film online to every possible distribution point. But it's really the grassroots third component that is going to be the most important, and it's the same reason why Facebook is doing so well right now. It's that, sharing with your friends and family. And what I want people to know is that even with the large cinemaplexes in your area, whether it's your local AMC theater or, big chain, those are run by people. And inside those theaters are managers, and those managers have to fill those seats. And sometimes there's an empty theater. If it's a 14-plex, go look at the schedule. They may have 3 empty theaters on that day that are doing nothing. And you can cut a deal with the theater manager to say, hey, I'd like to host this film. How much will it cost? And then our group is intending to build an infrastructure with marketing dollars and other sponsorship-driven kind of campaigns where we can help people on the ground in those areas get access to those theaters. And then it's the job, once you secure the theater, it's simply how do we fill 300 seats? Well, postcards go out, posters, just like a carnival coming to town. We get the word out. People get on the radio or just tell their network. I'm reminded of movies like Passion of the Christ that Mel Gibson had put out. And, my family, actually, I was younger at the time, but my mom was very taken by the film and wanted to help everyone see it. And not all theaters were planning to show it. So there was sort of a grassroots movement within our local church where I remember things coming literally into us at church. We're hearing about this film and how we should call to action, get people together, and go watch it together. And so my mother, may she rest in peace, actually organized an entire screening, raised all the money, brought everyone together, and it was a free screening. So it's not that hard to do.
Right.
And we're here to help. So as we move forward in the release of the film, our websites will definitely become live with links and information on how to reach us to establish those programs in your local area. So if you are interested, please definitely reach out and let us know, and we'll be having, media and packages and things that we can send out to help support the film.
Yeah, in the next 2 months, this is going to be the big push, is to get the premiere organized, get the film finished, and to also be able to begin to look at what our options are. And one thing that we've looked at is that if enough people do this, where there's a large number of people that network this into their own networks, and some of the people who are in my network have, 20, 40, 50,000 people on their email list, that, what we could do is do this as very grassroots sort of viral networking, and that will get the attention of the big guys even if they don't want to do it initially, and often that is what happens. And so what we want to do with this is make this something where it's a real public education, awareness-building event. And I think that everyone listening and involved with this, who's on the show right now listening, are potential representatives, distributors, networkers for us, because that's really how we put this together. I mean, there are no corporate people who put one red cent into this. And actually, the Disclosure Project, which at the time was the most watched event in the history of the Internet, not just the National Press Club, the entire history of the Internet, was all done by volunteers and networking. And of course it broke into the mainstream media and ended up on, Pravda and Chinese News Agency and CNN and Headline News and all that. But the point is that it was really based in large numbers of people jumping on and getting involved. And so this will be sort of that next level of that. with this full-length feature film, and that's our goal. And ultimately, our goal is that the proceeds of this will go into building a new energy research lab, because there's so many things going on. I'll give you an example. I can't be too specific about what this is, but in the last couple of weeks, a man has approached me whose a family had been involved in the 40s building the early anti-gravity propulsion drive systems, and had actually built one. But subsequently it got subsumed into secret programs. But this man's family still has the full blueprints, models, plans, details of this that they want to hand off to us so we can build this system back up. Obviously, we want to do that, but to do so is a very difficult thing. You're going to have a laboratory. You're going to have it well equipped with the right equipment, physicists, materials management people, and specialists, electromagnetic specialists, mechanical engineers, on and on and on. It can be done. But these, we're sitting on, and this is one example. Another example is I have a disc, a CD, that has several thousand patents and designs that have been illegally seized, that was given to me by a man who was being recruited by the CIA to work for them because of his skill in these secret energy and propulsion systems. And they were sort of letting him copy and look at a lot of information, which he did, and he kept them, and he has since digitized it and has given it to us. So now, of course, that's in a two-dimensional format. To make a three-dimensional device, you've got to actually have people who can do that R&D and do it. But we have so much intelligence and data and information, and so what we really want to do with this film is to bring the awareness of not only peaceful contact, but the fact that these technologies are real and have been suppressed for over 100 years. If you deal with just the straight-up energy ones, the propulsion ones have been around for 70 years or more. In fact, T. Townsend Brown first started doing high-voltage electromagnetic lifters that would cause levitation effect on items in 1928, 29. I mean, that's 80-some years ago. So when you look at this, we have 85 years where there's been all this, my autobiography is called Hidden Truth and Forbidden Knowledge. It's all these hidden truths and forbidden knowledge that has kept our whole society, in a sense, retarded, held back, delayed in where we could be. And in the meanwhile, because of that aberration in our evolution, we're now destroying both polar ice caps. Antarctica ice shelves are melting off. The oceans are dying. We have 7 billion people trying to live like we do with coal-fired power plants. 82% of electricity out of India and China is dirty coal now, and it's going up, not down. And so to solve this problem, you're not going to do it with a windmill here and there. You're going to need this whole new physics, which is behind the secrecy of the entire UFO subject. And so even in this last week or two, I've had a person approach me whose family was intimately involved with this, a genius person. It's all got suppressed, but they had kept the plans. So what are we going to do with that? Well, I can't. I'm just a country doctor here in Virginia, and I don't pretend to be a electromagnetic engineer or a fabricator. In fact, I can't even hook up a DVD player. My wife has to do that. So, the truth of the matter is I've got to put a team together of really top-drawer researchers, physicists, and engineers to do this, but you can't do that with a few $1,000s. You really need, $6 to $10 million for a 1.5 to 2 year program to do that properly. And if we had it, we could do it. What I'm hoping this film will do, through everyone who gets the importance of this issue, is that it'll go viral. We can raise those funds. We already have an entity set up to manage and bring this forward. And bring the technologies forward. And it's not like we'll be starting from scratch, my friends. If you read between the lines of what I've just shared with you, we're sitting on a gold mine of information, data, documents, designs. But to get those put into three-dimensional operational systems, you're not going to do that out of your garage part-time. This is a serious R&D effort. And I know that, being chairman of emergency medicine, I mean, our emergency department had like a $24 million budget just for that one town, for that one department, not the whole hospital, that one department. So to do anything properly with professional support, on something that's a heavy physics-oriented research project, you've got to get serious about it. And that's, serious is no pun intended, but that's actually, that's why we named this new website Sirius Disclosure, because it's sort of a double entendre. It's spelled like the star system Sirius, Sirius, but it has the meaning that this is serious disclosure going on, not, what politician had a sex scandal yesterday, which is considered an investigative report, in the mainstream media now. But SeriousDisclosure.com is dealing with the really serious issues, and that's why we hope this film, if everyone gets on board and becomes the sort of adjunct distributors and representatives. Yeah, and I hope I think that's a model that could really be very, very successful. I know here where we live, where the University of Virginia is, there's a great independent theater that hosts a lot of independent films that could be engaged, and there could be several screenings, and it would be filled. Because, even in a little town like this, when I just give a talk for a couple hours, we've had 600-700 people come. So there's no reason why you wouldn't be able to do this in every college town in America, every city in America, and through, Facebook and Twitter and viral marketing and networking, we should be able to make this a huge success.
Sure, yeah.
And I really think that's some of the concepts that, that Chris and I have been talking about.
Yeah, and it's not so taboo anymore. I mean, we live in the day of Ancient Aliens as a top-rated show on Nat Geo,
Right.
And there's lots of information being shared on Facebook. In fact, just in the 6 years that I've been following the story, my Facebook timeline went from having nothing about UFOs or ET subjects to now so many of my friends and colleagues sharing information freely about that without fear of judgment or ridicule. Most of it tied to the energy technologies, and that again is a platform that I think everyone can get behind. Even just in the name of exploring the truth, whether they think there's something there or not, what does it hurt to jump on the bandwagon and ask for this information to be released so that we can know one way or the other, and we all know what the answers are going to be.
Yeah, and see, one of the things I think to remind people, what couldn't have been done 5 to 10 years ago can be done now, because of all the different internet sites, the ability to host things, have video on demand that goes viral. All of these are things that just didn't, the infrastructure wasn't there, and the platforms weren't there. Now they are. And so, it'd be great if a big mainstream distributor picks it up and really pushes it out. But if not, my attitude is, so what? We can do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, it's just people going to a place to watch a film, whether that happens in a major cinema box office, in your living room, at a convention center, or wherever. It's just the process of watching this film and understanding its message and sharing it with your friends.
Yeah, and the film is going to have a link to the fund that's been created to develop this New Energy Research Center. And it's also what we're going to do after this film comes out is that we're going to create a series of short films that are going to go into more depth. Obviously, everyone knows that the film is only 2 hours. So, and we're sitting on right here in my house office archive subterranean storage vault, probably, a couple of 100 hours of amazing product that the world has never seen. Because how? So what we want to do is, after this, is to begin to create a steady flow of things that drill down more deeply into the science of consciousness that's on the video, that goes into deeper aspects of transdimensional technologies and sciences and physics. It goes into deeper discussions of the CE5 contact experiences, because we have hundreds and hundreds of videos and images that aren't going to make it into this film, that because you can't do everything in 2 hours, obviously.
So your life is a trilogy, Dr. Greer.
So what we want to do is, but the public really is hungry for this information. in a way that we've never had the means to get it out.
Yes.
And what we want to do over the next year is to have the film released, and then in the aftermath of the film have a steady sort of supply of more information and more details. For example, we've been wanting for a while now, and we've just identified someone who we're going to engage to do this, to get the entire disclosure